The night air was cool as Taewon walked home from his late shift at Seoul Galactic Hospital. The year was 2145, and Earth had been part of the galactic community for almost 20 years now. Taewon worked as an interspecies medical technician, helping doctors treat the many alien visitors who came to Earth. He pulled his jacket tighter around his shoulders. The Han River flowed quietly beside the path he walked every night. The water reflected the colorful lights of hover cars passing overhead on the skyways. Most people took air taxis these days, but Taewon enjoyed walking. It helped him think after long days of work. Maybe I should get dinner, he said to himself, glancing at the time display on his wrist device. It was nearly midnight, but many food stalls in Seoul stayed open all night to serve both humans and aliens. A sudden noise from above made Taewon look up. A small hover vehicle was flying strangely, moving in a zigzag pattern. Its lights were flashing red. That doesn't look right, Taewon muttered. Then it happened. The vehicle's engines made a loud popping sound, and it began to fall from the sky. Taewon watched in horror as it dropped directly toward the Han River. With a large splash, the vehicle hit the water about 50 meters from where he stood. Without thinking, Taewon ran to the edge of the walkway. He kicked off his shoes and jumped into the cold water. His medical training took over. Someone might be dying in there. He had to help. The water was darker than he expected. The vehicle was sinking fast, its lights still visible under the surface. Taewon swam deeper, his lungs already starting to burn. When he reached the vehicle, he saw that its door was stuck. Inside was a figure moving weakly. Taewon pulled hard on the door handle. It wouldn't budge. He looked around and saw a small, emergency hammer attached to the side of the vehicle. He grabbed it and hit the window with all his strength. The special glass cracked, then broke apart as it was designed to do in emergencies. Water rushed in, and Taewon saw the passenger clearly for the first time. It wasn't human. The blue skin and large dark eyes belonged to a Navari, one of the aquatic alien species. But something was wrong. The Navari was struggling, clasping at her throat. Navari could breathe in water, but Taewon noticed her breathing apparatus was damaged. The small device that usually hung around Navari necks was cracked and sparking. Without it working properly, the water would be just as deadly to her as it would be to a human without oxygen. Taewon grabbed the Navari and pushed through the broken window. His lungs were screaming for air now, but he kicked hard, pulling the alien up toward the surface. When they broke through, Taewon gasped deeply, filling his lungs. But the Navari in his arms was still struggling. He swam to the shore, dragging the blue-skinned alien onto the walkway. Her eyes were wide with panic, her blue skin turning a sickly pale color. Taewon knew he had only moments to act. "Hold on," he said, even though he wasn't sure if she understood Korean. "I can help you." Taewon reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his work ID badge. The back contained a small emergency medical kit, standard issue for all hospital staff. Inside was a small tube of nanogel designed to create temporary air bubbles for emergency surgery. Working quickly, he applied the gel around the Navari's damaged breathing device, forming a waterproof seal. Then he took a small capsule from the kit and broke it open, releasing a special mixture of gases that Navari needed. He guided the gas into the sealed area he had created. The effect was immediate. The Navari's eyes focused, and her breathing steadied. Her blue skin began to return to its normal, vibrant color. "Thank you," she said in perfect Korean, her voice sounding slightly mechanical through her translator. "You saved my life." "I'm Taewon," he said, still catching his breath. "I work at Seoul Galactic Hospital. Are you hurt anywhere else?" "I am Nara," she replied, trying to sit up. "I am a junior diplomat at the Navari embassy. I think I am not seriously hurt, but my breathing device is damaged." Taewon nodded. "The nanogel will only last about 30 minutes. We need to get you proper help." "I have called for assistance," Nara said, touching a small device on her wrist. "They will arrive soon." Taewon looked at the river where the hover vehicle had crashed. "What happened? Did your vehicle malfunction?" Nara's expression changed, her large, dark eyes narrowing slightly. "I do not think it was an accident. My vehicle's systems were working perfectly, and then they suddenly failed." Someone might have wanted to harm me. Before Taiwan could ask more questions, 3 larger hover vehicles appeared in the sky. They landed nearby, and several Navari rushed out. They wore the formal blue and silver uniforms of the embassy security team. "Ambassador Nara," one of them called out, running toward them. "Are you injured?" "I am well enough thanks to this human," Nara said, gesturing to Taiwan. The security team looked at Taiwan with suspicion. One of them stepped forward, towering over him. "Why are you here, human? What involvement did you have in this incident?" The guard asked coldly. Taiwan stood up, wet and shivering. "I was walking home and saw the crash. I'm a medical technician. I only wanted to help." "He saved my life," Nara said firmly. "My breathing apparatus was damaged in the crash. He created an emergency solution until you arrived." The guards looked surprised. Navari were known for their distrust of humans. Relations between the 2 species had been tense since first contact. Many Navari saw humans as unpredictable and dangerous. "That is unexpected," the lead guard said. "The ambassador will want to hear about this." Taiwan watched as they carefully helped Nara into one of their vehicles. Before the door closed, she turned to look at him. "I will remember what you did today," she said. "We will meet again, Taiwan." The door closed and the vehicles rose into the night sky, leaving Taiwan alone by the river. He was cold, wet, and now very hungry. But he felt something else too. Curiosity about the Navari diplomat whose life he had just saved, and the strange feeling that his life had just changed forever. As he picked up his shoes and began the walk home. Emergency vehicles arrived to recover the sunken hovercar. Taiwan wondered who would want to harm a Navari diplomat and why. He also wondered if he would really see Nara again, as she had promised. Little did he know that this chance encounter by the Han River was just the beginning of a story that would change not only his life, but relations between humans and Navari forever. 3 days had passed since the crash. Taiwan was back at work in Seoul Galactic Hospital, running tests on a small green alien child from the planet Vox. He tried to focus on his job, but his mind kept going back to the blue-skinned Navari diplomat he had rescued from the river. "Taiwan, there's a message for you," said Dr. Kim, his supervisor. She handed him a small crystal disc, the kind used by alien embassies for official communication. Taiwan took the disc with surprise. "For me? Who would send me an official embassy message?" Dr. Kim shrugged. "It's from the Navari embassy. Maybe it's about that rescue you told us about." After his shift ended, Taiwan went to a quiet room and placed the crystal disc on his tablet. A small hologram appeared, showing Nara's face. Her dark eyes looked directly at him. "Greetings, medical technician Taiwan. I, junior diplomat Nara, of the Navari 6th House, formally request your presence at the Navari embassy tomorrow at sunset. I wish to express my gratitude for your actions 3 nights ago. Transport will be provided. Please confirm if this arrangement is acceptable." The message ended, leaving Taiwan staring at his tablet. A visit to the Navari embassy was rare for any human. The aquatic aliens kept mostly to themselves on Earth, conducting necessary diplomatic business but avoiding much social interaction with humans. Taiwan sent a simple reply accepting the invitation. The next day, as promised, a sleek hover car with the Navari embassy symbol arrived outside his small apartment building exactly at sunset. The driver, another blue-skinned Navari, said nothing during the journey. Taiwan watched through the window as they approached the embassy, a strange, beautiful building on the outskirts of Seoul. It looked like a giant bubble made of silver and glass, with water flowing down its outer walls. Inside, Taiwan felt immediately out of place. The main hall was filled with shallow pools of water. Navari diplomats moved through them gracefully, their webbed feet barely making a splash. The air was thick with moisture, and soft blue lights gave everything an underwater feel. A Navari attendant approached him. "Follow me. Junior diplomat Nara is waiting." They walked through several halls, passing rooms where water flowed freely from ceiling to floor. Taiwan noticed how other Nivari stared at him with cold curiosity. Humans rarely entered this place. Finally, they reached a small room designed for meeting with non-aquatic species. Nara was there, standing beside a table with food and drinks. She wore formal Nivari diplomatic clothes, flowing silver fabric that seemed to move like water. Her breathing apparatus looked new and more elegant than the damaged one from the crash. "Taiwan," she said, bowing slightly in the human way. "Thank you for coming." "It was no trouble," he replied, bowing back more deeply as a sign of respect. "How are you feeling after the crash?" "I have recovered fully thanks to your quick actions." Nara gestured to the table. "Please sit. I have arranged for some human food alongside Nivari refreshments." Taewon sat down, noticing plates of familiar Korean dishes next to strange blue and purple foods he assumed were Nivari. He carefully took some rice and vegetables. "I wanted to thank you properly," Nara continued. "What you did was unexpected. Most humans would not risk themselves for a Nivari." Taewon shook his head. "I'm a medical technician. I help anyone who needs it, human or alien." Still, it was brave. Nara's large eyes studied him carefully. "There is something else you should know. The crash was not an accident." Taewon stopped eating. "You mentioned that night it might not have been. Do you know who did it?" Nara lowered her voice. "We believe it was the work of the Pure Earth Group. They are humans who oppose alien presence on Earth. They have been growing more active recently." "I've heard about them on the news," Taiwan said sadly. "But most humans don't share their views. We value being part of the galactic community." "Many Nivari would disagree," came a deep voice from the doorway. A tall, older Nivari male entered the room. His skin was a darker blue than Nara's, and he wore elaborate clothing with many symbols of rank. "Uncle," Nara said, standing quickly. "This is Ambassador Maro, my uncle, and the head of the Nivari diplomatic mission to Earth." Taiwan stood and bowed deeply, but the ambassador merely nodded coldly. "So you are the human who pulled my niece from the river," Ambassador Maro said. "The Nivari Sixth House thanks you for your service." His words were polite, but his tone was not warm. Taiwan sensed the ambassador did not like having a human in the embassy. "I was just doing what anyone would do," Taiwan replied. "No, not what any human would do," the ambassador corrected. "Our security team has reviewed the river cameras. You risked your life without hesitation. This is not typical behavior toward Nivari from humans." Nara stepped forward. "Uncle, I have a request. I would like Taiwan to serve as my cultural guide during my time on Earth." Both Taiwan and the ambassador looked surprised. "That is not necessary," Ambassador Maro said firmly. "We have extensive data on human cultures." "Data is not experience," Nara countered. "My duty as junior diplomat is to understand humans better. What better way than to learn from one who has shown the best qualities of humanity?" Taiwan watched this exchange with interest. It was clear Nara was clever and determined. The ambassador seemed displeased but reluctant to deny her directly. "It would be an honor to show you Seoul," Taiwan offered, "if it helps diplomatic relations between our peoples." Ambassador Maro's face showed what Taiwan guessed was the Nivari version of a frown. "Very well," he said finally. "But all outings must be approved by security, and a guard must accompany you at all times." After the ambassador left, Nara turned to Taiwan with what seemed like excitement in her large, dark eyes. "I apologize for involving you without asking. First," she said, "but I am genuinely curious about human culture. Our peoples have been neighbors on this planet for nearly 20 years, yet we know so little about each other." "Why me, though?" Taiwan asked. "I'm just a medical technician, not a diplomat or cultural expert." Nara touched the new breathing apparatus at her neck. "In Nivari culture, saving someone's life creates a bond. But more than that, you showed something my people often miss about humans: your capacity for compassion beyond your own kind. This is considered a weakness among Nivari, but I wonder if it might actually be a strength." Taiwan smiled. "I'd be happy to show you around Seoul. When would you like to start?" "Tomorrow, if possible." Nara said. I have always wanted to visit. A real human food market. Is there one nearby? Guangzhou Market is not far from here. It's been around for over 200 years. It has both traditional and modern foods now. As they made plans, Taewon realized this strange friendship might be more important than either of them knew. Behind the cultural barriers and suspicions between their species, there might be a chance for real understanding. When Taewon left the embassy that night, he felt both excited and nervous. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something new, not just for him, but perhaps for human-Nivari relations as well. Guangzhou Market buzzed with activity as Taewon led Nara through the crowded aisles. The Nivari diplomat walked carefully, trying not to bump into the many humans shopping for food. Behind them, a Nivari security guard named Lanu followed at a distance, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. There are so many smells, Nara said, her translator device working to keep up with her excited words. How do humans choose what to eat with so many options? Taewon smiled. We usually go with what our family taught us to like, or we try new things when we're feeling brave. They stopped at a stall selling traditional Korean street food. The old woman running it stared openly at Nara's blue skin and large eyes. What would you recommend? Nara asked Taewon. Try the tteokbokki, he suggested. It's rice cakes and spicy sauce. One of my favorites since childhood, Taewon ordered, and the vendor handed over 2 small paper bowls. Nara studied the red food carefully before taking a small bite. Her eyes widened. It's hot, she exclaimed. But good. Very different from Nivari food. We eat mostly proteins from ocean plants and small sea creatures. As they walked and ate, people stared at them. Human-alien friendships were still uncommon, especially with Nivari. Some people smiled curiously, while others frowned or whispered to each other. Does it bother you when they stare? Taewon asked quietly. Nara shook her head. On diplomatic missions, being watched is normal, but I'm curious. Does it bother you to be seen with me? No, Taewon answered honestly. I'm proud to show you my city. Besides, I work with aliens every day at the hospital. Over the next 2 weeks, Taewon and Nara spent many evenings together. He showed her the ancient palace of Gyeongbokgung beside the ultra-modern Seoul Tower. They visited museums where Korean history sat alongside displays about Earth's first contact with alien species 20 years ago. One evening, as they watched the sunset from Namsan Park, Nara asked a question that had been on her mind. Do you have family, Taewon? My parents live in Busan now, but my grandmother lives here in Seoul. She raised me after my parents moved for work. Nara tilted her head. Family is important to Nivari too. We live in large family groups called houses. The 6th house, my family has been in diplomacy for 7 generations. So you had to become a diplomat? Taewon asked. It was expected, Nara said, looking at the distant horizon. Just as my uncle expects me to represent our people perfectly. She paused. But what I really love is writing poetry. Taewon looked at her with surprise. Poetry? What kind? Nara seemed embarrassed. It would not translate well, but I write about the deep oceans of my homeworld, about the lights of the ancient sea caves, about feelings that have no names. I'd like to hear some sometime, Taewon said softly. The next day, Taewon took Nara to meet his grandmother, Ji-young. He was nervous about this meeting but felt it was important. Ji-young's restaurant was small but popular, serving traditional Korean dishes she had cooked for 50 years. When Taewon walked in with Nara, the old woman froze for a moment, then smiled warmly. So this is the friend you've been telling me about, Ji-young said, bowing to Nara. Welcome to my humble restaurant. Thank you for having me, Nara replied, bowing deeper as Taewon had taught her was proper when meeting elders. Ji-young led them to a private table in the back. I've prepared several dishes. I wasn't sure what Nivari can eat, so I made many options. The table was filled with small bowls of different foods. Nara looked overwhelmed by the variety. My grandmother believes food solves all problems, Taewon explained with a laugh. A wise philosophy. Nara said, carefully trying a piece of kimchi. On my world, sharing food is also how we show welcome. As they ate, Ji-young asked Nara many questions about Nivari culture. Unlike many humans, she showed no fear or suspicion, only genuine curiosity. Your grandson saved my life, Nara told Ji-young. He jumped into dangerous water without thinking twice. Ji-young nodded proudly. He has always been like that, even as a small boy. Once he found an injured bird and stayed up 3 nights caring for it. Taiwan felt his face grow warm with embarrassment. Grandmother, I'm sure Nara doesn't want to hear old stories. Actually, I do, Nara said, her large eyes fixed on him with interest. These stories show who you truly are. After dinner, as they walked back toward the Nivari embassy with Lanu following behind, Nara seemed deep in thought. Your grandmother is remarkable, she finally said. She showed no fear of me. Many humans see Nivari as cold and dangerous. Many. Nivari see humans as chaotic and primitive, Taiwan countered. But when we actually talk to each other, we find we're not so different. Nara stopped walking and turned to face him. Would you like to see my world someday? Not the embassy, but the real Nivari homeworld? Taiwan's heart beat faster at the thought. I would love that. Is it possible? It would be difficult. Few humans have ever been allowed to visit, but perhaps in the future. She looked up at the night sky where stars were barely visible through the city lights. Our world is mostly ocean, with floating cities and underwater gardens that glow in the dark. It sounds beautiful, Taiwan said. It is. But we have problems, too. Our society is very structured, very traditional. Everyone has their place. Nara sighed. That's why I find Earth so fascinating. Humans change so quickly, adapt to new ideas. As they neared the embassy, Nara spoke again, her voice quieter. Tomorrow is the planning meeting for the Interspecies Peace Summit. Many important people will attend the actual summit next week. My uncle says it's a crucial time for relations between all species. Will you be part of it? Taiwan asked. In a small way. But I'm worried about security. The Pure Earth group has made threats. Taiwan frowned. The police are taking those threats seriously, right? Yes, but... Nara hesitated. I have a bad feeling. These extremists hate all aliens. The summit brings together 17 different species in one place. They stopped at the embassy entrance. The guard Lanu moved ahead to give them a moment of privacy. Be careful, Taiwan said. Maybe we should cancel our plans until after the summit. Nara shook her head. No. These weeks learning about your world have been the most interesting of my life. I don't want to stop because of fear. As they said goodbye, Taiwan realized something important had changed between them. What had started as a chance rescue had grown into a friendship that felt increasingly special. Despite their different worlds, different biologies, and the suspicion between their species, he and Nara had found a connection that seemed to grow stronger each day. What he didn't know was how that connection would soon be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. The day of the Interspecies Peace Summit arrived. Seoul was decorated with the flags of 17 alien species, alongside the flags of Earth nations. The main event would be held in the Grand Global Unity Center, but smaller celebrations happened. Throughout the city, Taiwan had the day off from the hospital. He planned to meet Nara at one of these celebrations, a festival in Olympic Park marking 20 years since Earth joined the Galactic Alliance. Many aliens and humans would gather, there to enjoy music, food, and cultural displays. As he waited at the park entrance, Taiwan felt strangely nervous. Over the past weeks, his feelings for Nara had grown beyond friendship. But he kept these thoughts to himself. Romance between humans and aliens was rare, and many people on both sides disapproved. His phone beeped with a message from Nara. Meeting. Delayed. Will join you at the festival in 1 hour. Wait for me by the Nivari cultural display. Taiwan walked through the crowded park, watching humans and aliens enjoying the festival together. Near the center, he found the Nivari display, a beautiful recreation of underwater caves with glowing plants. Holographic fish swam through the air above visitors' heads. While waiting, Taewon noticed a group of humans watching the celebrations, with angry expressions. They wore no obvious symbols, but their tense body language made him uncomfortable. One man kept checking his watch and whispering to others. Taewon was about to alert a security officer when his phone rang. It was Nara. "Taewon." Her voice sounded urgent. "Don't come to the embassy, there's—" The call cut off suddenly. At the same moment, a loud explosion came from the direction of the Navari embassy, several blocks away. People in the park turned, toward the sound, pointing at a column of smoke rising in the distance. Without thinking, Taewon ran. He pushed through the startled crowd and sprinted toward the embassy. Police and emergency vehicles were already racing in the same direction, sirens blaring. When he reached the embassy, Taewon saw chaos. Part of the beautiful building had collapsed. The water that usually flowed down the outer walls was pouring out onto the street. Security forces were keeping people back, but Taewon pushed forward, showing his hospital ID. "I'm a medical technician. I can help," he shouted to the guards. A human police officer nodded and let him through. "We need all medical personnel. There are injured inside." Inside the damaged embassy, emergency workers were helping injured Navari. Taewon immediately joined them, checking breathing apparatuses and treating wounds. His mind was racing with worry for Nara. "There are more people trapped in the East Wing," someone called out. "The anti-gravity bombs damaged the structure. It's filling with air and losing water." Taewon knew this was deadly serious. Navari needed water to breathe properly, even with their apparatuses. Too much dry air could kill them. "I know where the East Wing is," he told the rescue coordinator. "I've been here before as a guest of junior diplomat Nara." The coordinator looked doubtful. "It's dangerous in there. The building could collapse further." "I have medical training and I know the layout," Taewon insisted. "Please let me help." Finally, the coordinator agreed. Taewon was given an emergency breather mask and directed toward the damaged section. As he made his way through the broken halls, he heard coughing and calls for help in the Navari language. When he reached the East Wing, he found a terrible scene. A large meeting room was partially collapsed, trapping several Navari diplomats. The room was designed to be filled with water, but the attack had damaged the water systems. The room was now half dry, with water levels dropping quickly. Then he saw her. Nara was helping an older Navari who appeared injured. She looked up and saw Taewon. "Taewon, what are you doing here? It's not safe." "I came to help," he said, rushing to her side. "What happened?" "Anti-gravity bombs," she explained, quickly. "They reversed gravity in parts of the building, causing structural damage. The Pure Earth Group left their symbol on a message that came just before the attack." Taewon looked around the room. "We need to get everyone out before the water levels drop further." "The door is blocked by debris," Nara said, "and Ambassador Morrow is injured. He cannot move quickly." Taewon saw Nara's uncle lying on the floor. His breathing labored. The ambassador's leg was trapped under a fallen piece of the ceiling. "We need to contact rescue teams and tell them exactly where we are," Taewon said. He reached for his phone, but there was no signal inside the damaged building. Nara touched her diplomatic badge. "The embassy communication system is down too. We're cut off," Taewon thought quickly. "Is there another way out? A maintenance access or emergency exit?" "Yes." Nara pointed to a small panel near the floor. "That leads to a service corridor for the water filtration system, but it's too small for most adults." Taewon examined the panel. "I think I can fit. I could go through and find help or find a way to restore water to this room." "It would be very tight for a human," Nara warned, "and parts may be underwater." "I'll manage," Taewon said firmly. "Tell me how to find the main water controls." As Nara explained the layout of the service corridors, Ambassador Morrow watched them with pained eyes. "Why would you risk yourself for us, human?" he asked weakly. Taewon looked at the injured ambassador. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because every life matters no matter what planet they come from." With Nara's help, Taewon opened the small panel and squeezed into the narrow service tunnel. It was barely big enough for his shoulders, Parts were dry, while others were still, filled with water. He had to hold his breath and swim through these sections. Following Nara's directions, he found the main water control station. The attack had damaged the automatic systems, but the manual overrides were still functional. Taiwan redirected water flow to the trapped diplomat's room, ensuring they would have enough to breathe until rescue arrived. Then he found an emergency communication station and called for help, giving the exact location of the trapped Navari. When HFY rescue teams finally cut through the debris and reached the trapped diplomats, they found Taiwan had returned to the room. He was using his medical training to help Ambassador Morrow and the other injured Navari. As they were all safely evacuated from the building, Nara stayed close to Taiwan. Once outside, in a quiet moment away from the emergency teams, she turned to him. "You came back for us," she said softly. "You could have just sent help, but you came back." "I couldn't leave you there," Taiwan admitted. "I was too worried about you." In that moment, looking at Nara's face in the emergency lights, Taiwan realized something that both thrilled and frightened him. He had fallen in love with her. Despite their different worlds, different biology, different cultures, he had fallen in love with a Navari. Before he could say anything more, Ambassador Morrow called for Nara. As she helped her uncle to a medical transport, the ambassador's eyes met Taiwan's. There was a new respect in that gaze, something that hadn't been there before. "Your human friend," Taiwan heard the ambassador say to Nara. "He is not what I expected. Perhaps we have misjudged his kind." Later that night, as the city dealt with the aftermath of the attack, Taiwan received a message from Nara. "The summit has been moved to a secure location. It will continue despite the attack. My uncle wishes to speak with you tomorrow. And Taiwan, I have something important to tell you too, something I've realized today." Taiwan read the message over and over, his heart racing. Had she felt it too? This connection between them that defied all expectations? He would have to wait until tomorrow to find out. 3 months had passed since the attack on the Navari embassy. The Pure Earth Group leaders had been caught and arrested. The Interspecies Peace Summit had continued despite the attack, ending with stronger agreements between Earth and alien nations. For Taiwan, these 3 months had been difficult. The day after the attack, he had gone to meet Nara and her uncle as requested. Ambassador Morrow had formally thanked him for his bravery and announced that Nara would be returning to the Navari homeworld. "The attack has made our leaders nervous," the ambassador had explained. "They feel it is safer for junior diplomats to return home until tensions ease." Taiwan and Nara had been given only a few minutes alone to say goodbye. Neither had found the courage to speak about their true feelings. Now Taiwan threw himself into his work at the hospital, developing new medical techniques for treating multiple species. His skills with Navari physiology had improved greatly since meeting Nara, and he had written several research papers on the topic. On a rainy Tuesday morning, Taiwan arrived at the hospital to find Dr. Kim waiting for him with an unusual expression. "Taiwan, this came for you this morning." She handed him an official-looking envelope bearing the seal of the Navari High Council. With shaking hands, Taiwan opened it. Inside was a formal invitation written in both Korean and the swirling script of the Navari language. Medical technician Taiwan is invited to participate in the first human Navari medical exchange program on planet Navari Prime. Duration, 6 months. Purpose, to share medical knowledge between our species and develop new treatment protocols. Taiwan read the letter 3 times, unable to believe it. Humans were rarely invited to the Navari homeworld. At the bottom of the invitation was a personal note in neat handwriting. "I hope you will accept. There is much more of my world I wish to show you. Nara." 2 weeks later, Taiwan stood nervously aboard a Navari transport ship preparing to make the jump to Navari Prime. He was the only human on board, surrounded by Navari officials returning home. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with suspicion. The journey took 3 days. When they finally arrived, Taiwan pressed his face to the viewing window, amazed by the sight below. Nivari Prime was mostly ocean, with scattered islands, and massive floating cities that glittered like jewels on the blue surface. Some structures extended deep below the water, creating an entire underwater civilization. As the ship docked at the main floating port, Taiwan felt both excited and terrified. Would Nara be there? What would her homeworld be like? How would other Nivari react to a human in their midst? When he stepped off the ship, the gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's. The air was thick with moisture, similar to the inside of the embassy but more natural. And there, waiting at the end of the arrival platform, stood Nara. She looked different here, more confident, more at home. She wore formal Nivari clothing with symbols of her house. When she saw him, her large eyes seemed to light up. "Taiwan," she said, approaching him. "Welcome to Nivari Prime." "Nara," he replied, smiling widely. "I can't believe I'm really here." "There is someone else who wishes to greet you," Nara said, gesturing behind her. To Taiwan's surprise, Ambassador Morrow approached. He seemed to have recovered fully from his injuries during the attack. "Medical Technician Taiwan," the ambassador said formally. "On behalf of the High Council, I welcome you to our world. Your presence here marks a new chapter in human-Nivari relations." After the formal greetings, Nara led Taiwan to a small transport vehicle that would take them to his living quarters. As they moved through the floating city, Taiwan was amazed by the beauty around him. Buildings rose from the water like growing crystals. Nivari swam freely between structures, while others walked on pathways. "This is incredible," Taiwan said. "I never imagined it would be so beautiful." "This is just the surface," Nara replied with pride. "Wait until you see below the water." They arrived at a building designated for visiting non-Nivari. Taiwan's quarters had been specially prepared with lower humidity and human-friendly furniture. "Rest today," Nara told him. "Tomorrow, I have something important to show you." The next morning, Nara arrived with a package. Inside was a sleek diving suit, unlike anything Taiwan had seen on Earth. "This is a special breathing apparatus designed for humans," she explained. "It will allow you to survive underwater with me." Taiwan looked at it with wonder. "Is this what you were working on these past 3 months?" Nara nodded. "After returning home, I convinced the council that humans possess unique qualities that Nivari could learn from: adaptability, compassion, ingenuity. I proposed the medical exchange program, but I also worked with our scientists to develop this." Taiwan put on the suit. It fit perfectly, covering his body but leaving his face free. A small device attached near his neck created a thin field of breathable air around his head while underwater. "Ready to see my world?" Nara asked. They took a small boat to an opening in the floating city's center. There, with Nivari officials watching curiously, Nara led Taiwan to the edge. "Just jump," she said. "The suit will protect you." Taking a deep breath, Taiwan jumped into the waters of an alien world. The suit worked perfectly. He could breathe normally as he sank below the surface. Nara dove in beside him, moving gracefully through her natural element. What Taiwan saw underwater took his breath away. Massive buildings extended downward, lit by bioluminescent plants that glowed in blues, greens, and purples. Nivari swam everywhere, going about their daily lives. Schools of alien fish moved in perfect patterns around the structures. Nara took his hand and guided him deeper, to a beautiful garden of swaying plants that glowed like stars. Here, away from others, she finally spoke about what had been left unsaid 3 months ago. "When you came back to help us during the attack, I realized something," she said, her voice clear through their connected communication systems. "The qualities that make humans different from Nivari, your adaptability, your emotional openness, your willingness to help others unlike yourselves, these are not weaknesses as my people always thought. They are strengths." Taiwan floated in the alien ocean, facing the woman from another world who had changed his life. "I realized something too," he said softly, "that sometimes the greatest connections happen when we look beyond boundaries. My Uncle told the council that you showed him what humanity truly offers the galaxy, Nara continued. Your actions helped change minds. That's why you're here now. And is that the only reason? Taiwan asked, his heart beating faster. Nara moved closer to him in the glowing water. No, you're here because I asked for you. Because I believe what we found, this connection between us, might be important not just for us, but for our peoples. What did we find? Taiwan asked, though he already knew the answer. Something that can cross stars, Nara replied. Something neither of our species expected. As they floated together in the glowing gardens of Nivari Prime, Taiwan realized this was just the beginning. The journey ahead would not be easy. Their worlds were different, their biologies not designed to match. But if a human medical technician and a Nivari diplomat could find love across the stars, perhaps there was hope for greater understanding between all peoples of the galaxy. 5 years later, the first human Nivari Cultural Center opened in Seoul. Its directors were a human named Taiwan and a Nivari named Nara, whose unlikely romance had begun with a rescue on a rainy night by the Han River. Visitors to the center could see a small memorial to that night. A simple plaque that read, "Beyond. Boundaries beyond differences, we find what unites us all."